It's now back on my needles, which I'm very happy about. Like, such a cool way to start the autumn season. Hi and welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Mathilde, I'm a French knitter, and if you're not new here, thank you so much for tuning in, I really appreciate it. If you're not subscribed already, you can click on the subscribe button down below so that you don't miss any future content. Today I really want to share with you my Make 9 update. It's the middle of the year, to be honest, it's late July, but I thought it would still be an interesting video to make and to see where I'm at, if I'm going to accomplish my goals or not, and also just to see if my goals have changed, if I've decided that I don't actually want to make some of the knits that I put on my Make 9, and you know, show you which ones I think I want to accomplish, or accomplish is a strong word, but like which ones I actually want to make. I hope this is an interesting video for you to watch. It's my first time making this like mid-year update on my knits. If you're curious about which knits I've actually made that were not on my Make 9, I've created a little Instagram reel which I've put up on my profile, so you can go check that out on my Instagram, which is Nestled in Knits. Before we jump into the Make 9 update, I just want to share what I'm wearing, which is my Sandro Pullover. This is a test knit I did for Flaminia of the Knitting Flam. She has a YouTube channel as well as an Instagram. This is her first knitting pattern that she sold, and it's an amazing design. She's also just released the Pioneer dress, which is stunning, and which I really want to make next year, hopefully. But yeah, this is my Sandro Pullover, and I've knitted it in the Gynt by Sandnes Garn in the colorway Poppy, and I really love it. So let me go grab my laptop so that we can get started. Now you may think that I'm at my old place because I'm in front of my bookshelves, but actually I'm just in another room in my new place. This was the best place for me to be in terms of lighting, but to be honest, there's a bit too much light, so I'll try to fix that. And I hope it's not too echoey because this room is still pretty empty except for my bookshelves. So I hope the sound is okay, but I'm still like trying to get my groove in this new place, so yeah, just to let you know. And also I don't know if this is going to be like the regular filming spot. I don't know yet. We'll see. So I thought it would be fun to do another mood board to let you know which knits I've actually accomplished and which ones I haven't that were on my Make 9. I didn't do this mood board back in January. I don't know why, but I think it would be a good idea to do that next year. But you guys really love when I share my mood boards for my seasonal plans, so I thought this would be a good one to do as well. It's kind of very visual, so hopefully you guys like that. So let me start with the first plan on my Make 9, which is the Agnete Cardigan by Petite. This is a lovely v-neck brioche cardigan, which is a drop shoulder, and this has been on my Make 9 only this year. It wasn't like, sometimes you have, you know, knitting plans that go from one year to another year. This one was just on my list from this year, and it's still on my needles. I'll put up a picture of what it looks like now, but it's pretty slow going because it's brioche knitting in the round, or like knitting flat, but in the body means there's a lot of stitches, and it takes a while for me to do one row. I think it takes me maybe 20 minutes for just one row, and I've put that on hold for a few months because I really wanted to focus on other projects, because this is a cardigan that I'm knitting this beautiful yarn, which is, oh, there's a bit of a glitch. Anyways, which is knitting for olive merino and soft silk mohair in the colorway Red Currant, which is a gorgeous red, very on theme right now. Because it's knit with mohair, there was a moment in Paris where it was so hot I couldn't bear to knit with mohair, and so I've put most of my like winter garments on hold. But little spoiler, if my knitting podcast has not been out yet, I've picked this back up again, so if you've been watching the channel and you've been wanting me to pick this back up again, it's now back on my needles, which I'm very happy about. I would like to have it done by the fall so that I can wear it. I've been really missing cardigans in my wardrobe, so I'm really happy to have this one on my needles this year, and I'm hoping to finish it by the end of the year. But at least it's on my needles. It's like pretty, like I'm on the body now, so you know, it's not near to being done, but it's almost there, let's say. So that's the first of my make 9. The next pattern that was on my make 9 list was the mixed Rib Cami by Florence Miller. Now this pattern was actually cast on last year in the summer, but I ended up not being able to finish it on time. But actually it was really nice to pick this back up again this summer, because it was, you know, the back panel was almost finished, and so it felt like a good chunk, even though it was just the back panel, but a good chunk of it was already done, and so I just had to pick this back up again and finish it, which still took me like at least 2 months, because it is a knit that's made on 3mm needles. I'm glad to say that it is now finished. If you've seen my last podcast, you've seen it pre-blocked. It is now completely finished, blocked and done. I'll talk about it in my next podcast, so be on the lookout for that if you're interested. But I'm really happy with the finished project. I'm really happy to have this, you know, knit from another year done and off of my mind, because even though I knew I was gonna knit on it during the winter, it's still really nice to like have it be completely finished and for this to be a knit that I really love. I knit this with Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino in the colorway Thundercloud, and I really love this yarn. I'll talk more about it in the next podcast though. So this one is completely done. Maybe let's put this on the right, and maybe let's put this in the middle, like so. Let me do whips, and then FOs, and then to knit. Is there an abbreviation for that? I don't know. Probably not. Next one is the Solene Cardigan by Morecaknit. This was a knit that I fell in love with. I really wanted to cast it on. It's another cardigan that I really needed in my wardrobe. I think last year I only had 1 or 2 cardigans in my wardrobe, which is not a lot. And this one I have knit really quickly, because I made a what I can knit in 12 hours video, which meant that I knitted the whole yoke in those 12 hours. And then I really hyper focused on this and finished it in a couple of days afterwards. And so this was a really quick knit. It's a really enjoyable knit. It's a lovely construction. I really enjoy Morecaknit's patterns and how they're formatted, but also the techniques that she uses are really good, and sometimes they're not like the usual techniques sometimes, so that's always nice if you want to learn more techniques. And the yarns that I used are incredible. I used Pura Lana by Gepard Garn, which was my first time using it. It's a really soft yarn, because it's 50% alpaca and 50% wool, I think, or merino, but I think it's wool. It's really soft, and I paired it with another stoning yarn, which obviously made this a very expensive garment, but I'm honestly obsessed with it, which is Compatible Cashmere by Knitting for Olive in the colorway Cream. The Pure Lana is in the colorway 101, I think, just the regular white. The two colors are not quite similar, or like they're not quite the same. The Pure Lana is a little bit more yellow toned, whereas the Compatible Cashmere by Knitting for Olive in the colorway Cream is a bit more white, so it creates a bit of a mold, but it's really stunning and it's so soft. It does peel a lot, but the combination of it is amazing. It's also because it's alpaca, it's pretty warm. But anyways, I really love this knit. This is a finished object, so let me put that here. You can see I've made one modification, which is that I only made one tie to finish the cardigan. I think that was the best decision that I made. Just one tie is perfect, and I'm obsessed with this garment, so really happy with this project, and I'm really happy to have made a pattern by Morecaknit. So the next one that I made was also by Morecaknit, actually. This is the Charlie Pullover. This one was on my list to knit for over a year because I had this yarn in stash for ages and I really wanted to make it into a polo neck, I think that's what it's called. And initially I really wanted to make the Elisabeth Blouse by Petite, but that wasn't quite working with the yarn I had in stash. So the yarn I used was Serum Natura Ulysse in the colorway Amarante with Knitting for Leaf Soft Set Mohair in the colorway Bordeaux. So I did make the Charlie Pullover by Morecaknit. This one, I'm sad to say, is a little bit of a fail. It turned out pretty good, but it just turned out a little bit too oversized for what I wanted. I think that's like, I'm going off on a tangent here, but I think making this video is a good way for me to let you know my thoughts on some of those projects that were finished, you know, a month ago, because I think I finished this one in February or March, and so we're now in July, so I've been able to wear it and to really see how I like it. And I do still like wearing it, but because it's a bit too oversized, because my gauge was off and I didn't realize how many more centimeters or like how many more positives I would end up having because I didn't calculate it correctly, which was my own mistake, but it did really end up being way too oversized. And because of that, and also because I had the yarn in stash for ages, it meant that I didn't have enough yarn to also make it quite long, and so it ended up being a little bit too cropped for the ease that it has, and so it just feels like it's a boxy fit but also too short. So I do still enjoy wearing it, but it does look a little bit silly in a way. It's not the knit that I feel the most confident in, if that makes sense. So I still really enjoyed the process of it. It was quite intricate, the beginning of it, because of the polo neck color. So I've talked about the construction of it in different videos previously, so I'm not going to go into that, but it was a really interesting construction, and I really want to make another similar one because I do still want to make the Elisabeth Blouse by Petite, which is also on my Make 9 list, so we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I'm just like not 100% happy with that project. I would say it's a 3 out of 5 for me at this time, so yeah. So let's talk about the Elisabeth Blouse by Petite, which is another one on my Make 9. It's very similar to the Charlie Pullover by Morecaknit, but one of them is port weight and the other one I think is DK. I think that Charlie Pullover is intended to have more positives than the Elisabeth Blouse, which is only like 10 centimeters, whereas the Charlie I think is 15 to 20 centimeters. So that's why I would like to have both of them in my wardrobe, even though they're a bit of a similar look, but also I would really like to use the recommended yarn for the Elisabeth Blouse. I would like to use Classic by Cardiff Cashmere, which is definitely going to be a splurge and one that I'm both excited for and a little bit scared of, just because it's an expensive yarn. I don't want to mess it up. But I'm planning to use the Classic by Cardiff Cashmere in the colorway Nero, the black. And this one I haven't made yet. A very lovely viewer gifted me the pattern, so I'm really wanting to make it this year. I just haven't been able to buy the yarn yet because it's quite expensive, and because with moving and stuff, I really wanted to buy it this summer, but I'm unsure how that's gonna work. But I would still really like to make it, and I'm hoping maybe this fall. We'll see. But thank you again to the viewer who gifted me this pattern. I really appreciate it. The next pattern that was on my Make 9 was the Porcelain Sweater by Lene Holme-Samse. This one I've talked about so much already because I've cast it on and I've frogged, and I've cast it on again and frogged again, and I've cast it on a third time and I do still have to frog it. So this one technically would be considered to be a whip, but I mean, I have to start all over again. I have to make another swatch because my gauge is all over the place, and yeah, this is still on my plans to knit this year. I'm hoping to also be finished with it by the end of the year, but at the rate this is going, I don't know if that's gonna happen. We'll see. I love this pattern, I love this design, I love the colors that I chose and like the yarns that I chose. I want to use Tin Gynt by Sandnes Garn in the colorway white, I think, held with Soft Silk Mohair by Knitting for Olive in the colorway cream. And then for the contrast color, I want to use a hand-dyed yarn by Olivia and Oliver Fibers called Foliage, which is in her organic merino base, held with Soft Silk Mohair by Knitting for Olive in the colorway Dusty Olive, which is a combination that I really love. I don't know, I just think it's gonna look gorgeous. I just need to make another swatch to be able to figure out my gauge and make sure that I end up with the project, or like with the garment that I want, with the ease that I want, which is very tricky. But I'm gonna count this as a to knit piece because I have to frog it and start over. So I'm gonna put it here. And I hope you guys are not bored of me talking about this one and like sort of complaining. I'm not complaining, but it's a little bit of a mess. But I'm honestly really excited to knit it. So hopefully I can get it on my needles again pretty soon. Next up we have the Esther Sweater by Petite, which I haven't knit yet. I have had this yarn in my stash, I think, for over a year. This is a hand-dyed yarn, which is absolutely stunning. Again, by Olivia and Oliver Fibers. This is her organic DK in the colorway Chestnut and her Surrey Silk in the colorway Chestnut as well. This is a colorway that was from her Endless Autumn collection last year, early last year, I think. I'm beyond excited to cast this on, but I'm really trying to hold off on like being more in the fall because it's obviously going a very full colorway, but this one is a definitely must. I think I'm going to prioritize this one, so this one isn't knit either. I'm definitely going to prioritize it over the other two in my to knit list, just because I've had this yarn in stash for ages, longer than the ones for the porcelain, and obviously I don't have yet the Cardiff Cashmere, so this one is like at the bottom of my list, sort of, but also not, just because someone has gifted me the pattern, and so I really want to make sure she knows that I really appreciate her gift, and so I really do want to cast this on this year, but it's still a little bit behind the ones I do have yarn in stash for, if that makes sense. But the Esther Sweater is a gorgeous drop shoulder design with a lovely texture. I've made my swatch already, so I just need to cast it on. So hopefully in like the next 2-3 weeks, something like that. Maybe I'll wait until like the 1st of September to cast this on, because I feel like that would be like such a cool way to start the autumn season, even though autumn doesn't start until the 21st of September. It kind of starts on the 1st of September, right? Now, the last one I'm going to talk about is the Dagmar Sweater by Petite. A lot of Petite patterns in my make line. I'll try not to make it too Petite heavy next year, but also I really love her patterns. I've been wearing my Storm Sweater, which I made last year from her, a lot, like almost every day. And even though I have other knits to wear, but I just think it fits perfectly, and yeah, I really enjoy wearing it. So yeah, anyways, bit of a tangent here. But the Dagmar Sweater is a heavily cabled sweater, and I would like to knit it with the recommended yarn, which I will not try to pronounce, but hopefully you can see which one I'm talking about, in the colorway Charcoal, so exactly the same as her sample. I think I will make my one with a folded color, but I don't have that yarn in stash, so this one is like at the very bottom of my priority list because I don't have the yarn, and because it's a heavily cabled sweater. I already have this cabled sweater from this year, and I have another one on the needles, so I feel like if I don't end up making this one this year, or at least if I only start it but don't finish it by the end of the year, I think that's fine, because I have made kind of like variations of it, even though this is a very simple cable design compared to the Dagmar Sweater, which is more heavily cable, like honeycomb cable and moss stitch, which isn't cable, but I mean, like, this is just a simple cable. Does this have a name? I don't know. With stockinette panels, so it's very easy to make, quite quick, whereas I feel like the Dagmar is going to take me a while. But I've been seeing so many people make it, especially in the other versions, so the jacket and the zipper sweater. I personally really want to make the simple crew neck Dagmar sweater, even though I love other versions, but seeing other people make it also helps me see how it wears on other people and how it fits, and I really like the look of it. So, and I think now that I'm like living in the mountains, it's gonna be a perfect knit to wear. So I'm excited to make it. It's still on my make 9 list, but I just don't know like when it's gonna come about and if I'm gonna be able to finish it by the end of the year. I feel like for the make 9, I don't know how you feel about it, but for me, if I don't end up finishing the projects that I added on this list, but if I at least started them on that year, it still feels like a win, sort of. Even though, you know, make 9s, they're not supposed to make you feel stressed or anything. It's just, I'm a planner. I have a list of to knit projects that I want to make for this year and for next year, and some of them are not on my make 9 because they're not like the things that I want the most, but they're like, if I have time, I would really enjoy making them as well. But anyway, another tangent. I'm really rambly today, I apologize. So I'll put it here. Let me try to reorganize all of this. I'll put these at the very top because they're, as I said, kind of my priority. Also, I really want to make the Dagmar and the Elisabeth Blouse because I don't have black or charcoal grey knits in my wardrobe yet. That's a lie. I do have the mixed Rib Cami, but it's a summer pattern, so it doesn't really count in a way. But making the mixed Rib Cami has made me really want to have a sweater or cardigan in a charcoal grey, so I think the Dagmar is perfect. And I've been wanting a black sweater or cardigan for ever since I started knitting, to be honest. So I'm really eager to do the Elisabeth Blouse in the black. Now you may be able to count and see that I don't actually have 9 projects on this list, and that's because the 9th one is the Stella Quilt blanket by Laura Penrose, which I would like to knit with parts of my Ivy Fiber Co advent calendar from last year. I still don't have a main color. I still haven't figured out like how I want to plan the blanket. I think I'll make a video on that because I've been trying to figure it out on Figma or like Canva sort of, to figure out which color I want to put it all together, but it's like still not even, the planning process, it still isn't even finished, so I don't actually know if I'm going to be able to cast it on. I'm hoping so. Now this was a pattern I put on my make 9, but I knew I was not going to be able to finish it by the end of the year, but I would still like to be able to cast it on. I just don't know how realistic that is, just because of how like busy I've been at the moment. And I think the Porcelain Sweater is already a knit that's taking a lot of my mind, like a lot out of me in terms of knits, just because I have had to frog it and start it all over again and stuff. So I don't know if I want to put the pressure on myself to do the same thing for the Stella Quilt blanket, even though I'm really excited to make it. But yeah, this one, I haven't even put it here because I just don't know. I think I've got still plenty to do on my make 9 list. I've only achieved 3 out of 9, and we're at the halfway point, and one of them was started last year, so I just wanted to share that because, you know, I've knit a ton of other things this year that were not on my make 9 and that I'm very happy with. But just to let you know that even though my make 9 list is still pretty solid, like it's still things that I want to knit, it fluctuates, and like not everything that you have set your mind to do at the beginning of the year has to be done by the end of the year, and I think that's fine. So let me know where you're at with your knitting projects this year. I'm honestly pretty happy with where I'm at, even though, you know, I'm not done, but this is just like a list that I like to refer back to more as a way to remain creative. Like I'm a planner, so I like this, but this might not work for you, and that's absolutely fine. This also helps me like focus back on, like, for example, the Esther sweater, which has been on my to knit list for a while, with yarn that I have in stash, and so making this like update helps me sort of realize that I do have that yarn in stash, I do have that project that I do still really want to make, and so it does make sense for me to cast it on maybe in 2 weeks time, even though I have maybe other projects on the needles or other things that I wanted to knit, but actually I should really focus on this one because I do still really want it in my wardrobe, if that makes sense. So I hope I haven't rambled on too much, and that was an interesting update for you guys. Maybe if you don't watch the podcast, it's interesting. Maybe if you do watch the podcast, it's a little bit redundant. Let me know your thoughts on this, just so that I know whether that's an interesting video to make next year on my Make 9. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!